12,000 miles away from the centre of World Championship rallying lies New Zealand. A country of only 3 million people and without a motor manufacturing industry of its own, it nevertheless plays host to one of the qualifying rounds in the World Championship Series. The New Zealand Rally has had a troubled past as regards its World Championship status. In one year, out the next, then back in again. The politics of the sport have perhaps played too big a part in its history. And for all that, it remains essentially a good event, offering superb special stages, not unlike Finland, competent organisation linked to a degree of hospitality and genuine friendship found on few other World Championship rallies. The 1984 event was held entirely in the North Island and consisted of 4 separate legs with an overnight halt at the end of each one, which made for a very civilised event. Main spectator interest at scrutineering was, of course, the 3-car entry from Audi for Roll, Mikkola and Blomqvist. That the gravel roads would suit the Audis was never in doubt. The talking point prior to the start, however, was who would be allowed to lead. Stig is Audi's hope for World Championship drivers' honours, but as we have seen in the past, as far as Walter Roll is concerned, team orders sometimes get forgotten in the heat of battle, particularly if Walter is in the lead. Lancia had a single entry for Marco Alain, a token gesture to please Marco, serviced from a collection of hired vans and lacking the huge impressive effort one normally associates with a Lancia equipe on other World Championship events. Marco, however, was his usual smiling self and was aware that although his entry lacked the resources he usually has at his disposal, the commitment from himself and the small band of loyal mechanics would never be less than 100%. Toyota came to New Zealand 2 years ago and finished a remarkable first and second with their Celicas. They are aware that this year they would have to produce something remarkable to get a similar result. For whilst the cars certainly have the power, there seems to be no substitute these days for 4-wheel drive. Their drivers, Valdegaard and Kankkunen, can somehow surprise the pundits with good results against seemingly impossible odds. Witness Valdegaard's win on this year's Safari Rally. Realistically, however, they know that New Zealand is a totally different type of event from Safari, and their chances must be slim. Other leading entries were received from Nissan for Timo Salonen and local driver Reg Cook, Frans Whitman in his rather battered Quattro, as well as a host of top New Zealand crews, anxious to prove that they could compete on terms with the overseas drivers. Whilst New Zealand only has a population of 3 million, most of them, it seems, are motorsport enthusiasts, and crowds gathered at every junction and every service halt to watch the rally. Roll is first into view and is setting a blistering pace despite having only 2-wheel drive, due to problems on stage 1, when a brake caliper broke, jamming a rear wheel and damaging the differential. Valdegaard is putting the power down to good effect in the Celica Turbo, but like Roll, had puncture problems on stage 1. Blomqvist is settling in well, with no problems so far, and although not setting faster stage times, is still only seconds behind rally leader Roll. The third team Audi of Mikkola had also fallen foul of the puncture-provoking rocks on stage 1. He collected 2 flats and dropped over 20 seconds to teammate Roll. Salonen in the Nissan 240 RS can always be expected to entertain the crowds, but is realistic enough to know his chances of overall honours are slim. Marco Alain in the lone 037 Lancia gets awfully close to the bridge in his efforts to keep in touch with the Audis, and indeed is to set 3 fastest times during the day, albeit on the shorter, twistier stages. Juha Kankkunen, partnered by British co-driver Fred Gallagher, is playing himself in very steadily. Not having had the chance to practice his pace note at rally speed results in 1 or 2 spins, but he is nevertheless well inside the top 10. Local crews, Reg Cook in the Nissan 240 RS, Malcolm Stewart in the RS 1800, and Neil Alport in another RS 1800, battle it out for top local honours, with Cook and Alport exchanging odd seconds and Stewart a distant third. Over from Tahiti, but not making any impression, and indeed proving an embarrassment seated at number 18, was Michel Bagard in the Renault 5 Turbo. Stage 5, 25 kilometres of mainly gravel stage, with the odd piece of tarmac thrown in to keep crews and spectators on their toes. Special Stage 7. Roll is yet again quickest, making his tally of fastest stage times 5, to hold the lead. Behind him in second place, Mikkola, who has had one fastest stage time to his credit. Blomqvist completes the trio of quattros with a remarkably steady and trouble-free run. Holding fourth place at this point, Alain, with one fastest score on the fourth stage. Valdegaard is pacing himself well, albeit well over a minute behind Alain. He has a similar amount of time over teammate Kankkunen. Behind the Toyotas are the Nissans of Salonen and Cook. Salonen revelling in the fast-flowing stages, which suits his sideways style of driving. Stewart and Alport continue to battle it out, with Alport slowly pulling ahead. Blair Robson in the Mitsubishi Turbo is putting in a consistent performance to hold a place in the lower half of the top 20. With dusk falling, crews tackle stage 8 on the run back towards Auckland. Roll sets yet another fastest time to consolidate his lead. Valdegaard is over 20 seconds slower on this 23-kilometre stage. Blomqvist and Mikkola share identical times, with Mikkola just ahead overall by mere seconds. Alain is only 15 seconds behind Blomqvist to hold fourth place. With the pressure really on, the slightest error will be punished. Salonen is pushing hard to try and reel in Kankkunen, but without too much effect. The young Toyota driver maintaining his pace and managing to stay ahead. Whitman is mixing it with the Toyotas and Nissans, and although never producing startling stage times, is holding a top 10 position. The battling Kiwis, Cook, Stewart and Alport, are still hard at it, but they have a new challenger in the shape of number 23, Brian Stokes, in yet another RS 1800. A roadside service area after stage 10 near Matakana. First car to reach the Audi mechanics is Blomqvist. Of rally leader Walter Roll there is no sign, and soon reports are heard over the team radios that he has been seen stopped at the side of the road on the previous stage. Mikkola too arrives for a quick top-up with petrol, but there is still no sign of Roll. It does in fact take over 90 minutes to complete the stage, when the sophisticated Motronic black box that controls the electrics on the Quattro fail. He manages to struggle out of the stage, but was so far behind it wasn't worth continuing. Blomqvist is now the rally leader. For Toyota, servicing is fairly routine. There have been no major dramas other than Valdegaard having brake failure on one stage, when the fluid escaped through a leaking nipple. Kankkunen has settled down after his early spins, now getting in tune with his pace notes. At the end of the first leg, crews arrived back at the Travelodge Hotel, Auckland. Blomqvist's lead was short-lived, and his teammate Mikkola, who leads crews into the overnight halt, only 3 seconds ahead of Stig, having snatched the number 1 place over the final stage. Alain is in third place, 23 seconds further back, but he has a comfortable buffer of over 2 minutes to leading Toyota driver Valdegaard, who has a 2-minute gap to teammate Kankkunen. Sunday morning dawns bright and sunny for the start of the second leg of the rally, which consists of 10 stages south of Auckland, totaling 200 kilometres, en route to an overnight halt in Rotorua. The first stage is purely a spectator affair around the tarmac roads of the industrial estate and shopping precinct of Manukau City. As the Audi team change onto slick tyres immediately before the stage, their crews appear in a relaxed and confident mood, as well they might, knowing the advantage that four-wheel drive gives them over the fast-flowing gravel stages en route to Rotorua. Whilst the majority of spectator interest is centred around the leading works crews, the battle behind them for class honours is no less intense, particularly for the Group A award. This is being led very effectively by the four-wheel drive Subaru of Possum Bourne, who has teammates Tony Teasdale and Bruce Powell backing him up well. Toyota Starlets are very popular in New Zealand, not surprising since Toyota support the class with a generous bonus scheme. Leading exponent in this class is Ray Wilson, who is holding a position around 16th, much to the embarrassment of some of the more powerful cars in the event. Stage 17, and it's still Mikkola first on the road, although in fact now relegated to second place after a hard charge by Blomqvist. Just how hard can be judged by the rear end hanging off the Quattro. Elaine still hangs on to third spot, but is slipping further and further behind the Audis. Valdegaard too is consistent and remains in fourth place, but on the previous stage, Mystery Creek, teammate Kankinen had the prop shaft break, and only prompt attention by mechanics sent into the stage to repair the Toyota kept him in the hunt. He has, however, dropped to 9th place. Salonen is flinging the Nissan about in determined style, and with Kankinen's problems is now into 5th place. Whitman is plugging on in his battle-scarred Quattro in 6th position, whilst Possum Bourne continues to lead Group A in the Subaru. The wide gravel expanse of stage 18 shows the power of the Quattros off in fine style as Mikkola rockets into view, showering stones in all directions. Next through is Blomqvist, in the lead and proving a point by being 12 seconds quicker than anyone else. Marco Elaine looks to be on the ragged edge in the Lancia, and although posting third fastest time, is 23 seconds slower than Blomqvist. Valdegaard powers the Toyota down the straight, leaving his braking until the last minute in an effort to extract the maximum from the car. He nevertheless drops 2 seconds to Franz Whitman's Quattro. Sadly, this will be the last we shall see of Whitman, as he is soon to retire with a blown engine. As a beautiful sunset heralds yet another splendid day ahead, crews tackle 3 stages through the dark before the overnight halt in Rotorua. Just after the start of stage 19, Valdegaard sensed something was wrong with the Toyota steering. An exciting moment bouncing off a bank and into a ditch convinced him that something was definitely amiss. It was not the steering, however, it was the panhard rod that had broken. At the next service, a complete axle assembly is fitted, and Bjorn is still secure.